What is up, guys? What's up? Um, it is Wednesday, guys, and I'm feeling so much better after that last podcast. It was crazy because it's like Monday comes along and man, it just hits like a train. It sucks. It's like you show up and it's just like the entire day is just like, okay, this sucks, but I'm gonna do it anyways. Um, yeah, but basically, obviously, my Monday, like I've talked to you guys, like I said in the last podcast, it is always just about showing up, getting things done, going through the motions, right? Because I'm not like, not to say I don't show up at my 100, but I do show up and like go through everything, but like I can just feel energetically that I'm not 100% there. And that's just the reality of life is like sometimes you're not going to be 100%, but if you can show up at 60, 70, 80%, like, and just continue showing up over time, then that's all you can expect. Um, anyways, so it's Wednesday now, right? This last week, basically, I have done my best to get back in routine. Tuesday was much, much better. I was able to sleep better. Now I feel better. I'm waking up earlier, back in routine, all that good type stuff. Um, I feel much, much better. But yeah, I knew this was going to happen. I'm learning more and more about myself as I go. And like, just this whole routine is like I pretty much know Mondays are going to be tough. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, that's normally when I'm at my best. Friday, that's when I start to get tired and, kind of just go through the motions again. I really try my best to capitalize on my work Tuesday through Thursday, like all the stuff that takes a lot of my mental capacity. Big meetings, podcasts, like things like that. Typically are Tuesday through Thursday, and who knows, maybe we'll change this. But um, guys, the topic of today's podcast, right? I just did my push-ups, still breathing a little bit hard, but um, guys, the topic of today's podcast is: do you recognize your value? Do you understand the value that you bring to the table as whatever it is, right? Like whatever the thing is, um, I think it's very, very, very important that we take a step back and we look at the bigger picture on things. Especially me being a fitness coach, and I also coach other fitness coaches. Um, and I had this one coach that I was working with just yesterday. We spent like an hour and a half on the phone. And the interesting thing was like uh, she was basically like nobody wants to work with me, victimizing, like feeling like she had nothing to bring to the table, right? And the interesting thing was like I sat down and I was like, okay, I thought about my fitness journey, right? And like where I've come from and where I am now, right? And the craziest thing about that is like, and we'll wrap this into hers in a minute, but the craziest thing was like to think of where you would be had you not like had a coach or a mentor or someone to look up to, right? Like for me, guys, I started in Price, Utah, small town. Like I lived in a basement apartment with mold. Like it was shitty. We literally split $500 a month rent three ways. Like it was just the worst situation, guys. And like one of my roommates even was like, there were like drugs around. Like it was just bad, guys. Like it was literally the worst like thing imaginable. But the crazy part was like I started reflecting on that and I was like, well, where would I be without a coach? Like where would I be if I had never one bet on myself, but two believed in like the process that somebody else showed for me? Like you know what I mean? Like sometimes it just helps so much to have somebody in your corner that sees that you could be more than what you are. Um so for me it was like I moved out of my small town, got away from the people who were on drugs, got away from like all the crap that I was facing there. And then at that point, it's like the doubt's still there. Like you still have a ton of doubt, but I ended up um, signing up with a coach, going into my first prep, and like the craziest thing was like somebody actually believed in me. Like nobody, like up into that point in my life, nobody had even believed in that I could do anything with fitness, anything with bodybuilding. Like I didn't even really believe in myself at that point. But just enough. I believed in myself just enough to hire a coach. So with that being said, sorry, things are popping up on my computer. What's going on here? Um, whoa. Okay, there we go. We're good. But with that being said, it's like looking back in hindsight, it's like life changing, guys. Like who knows? Like there were plenty of times through the whole through my whole journey where it's like I had hit a wall or I had failed or whatever, and my first instinct was to go back to what I thought was normal, right? And that's moving back to the hometown, spent like going back to the old friends who were like dragging me down, and like all of the things that like ultimately, like who even knows where I would have been, like if I was living around those type of friends and I'd given up hope, like who even knows, guys? I like it's scary to think that that's even a possibility. But okay, so now to go back, right? And like, right, so I've went from living in Price, broke in a basement with three friends, splitting $500 rent, like the drugs, all the crap that was going on in my life, to like being one of the top natural bodybuilders in the world, guys. Like I've placed ninth in 2021 and eighth in 2022 in the entire world. So I'm not saying like I obviously haven't made it. There's still places to go up. Like there's still money to be made and businesses to be created. But my point being, like that in itself, like if you had to, so what I did with her, right? And I'm trying to like figure out how exactly I want to word this, but so that experience to me, right? And so what I did with her is I was like, okay, let's think about your fitness journey. In her case, she had lost over 100 pounds, guys. She's like a 5'3", 5'4" woman, middle aged, right? And she had lost over 100 pounds, guys, and went from like being on antidepressants, from being suicidal, like all the stuff, like in a dead end job, like she just was really struggling, right? To this point where she had lost 100 pounds. She's like she's still getting started in the business aspect of it, but she's like basically went from nothing from that to where she is now, right? Which is 100 pounds down, being able to post on social media, like investing in herself and like believing that good things are going to come. And so essentially I was like, okay, so let's reflect on this journey, right? And then look back, and now like close your eyes and really visualize it, right? Like all the little things, like just, being able to go up and down the stairs, and like being able to fold your legs, or the confidence, right? Like all of the little things, the quote unquote little things that we normally overlook and we just don't value them, right? And I was like, okay, now in terms of changing your life, right? What, like, if you look at like investments, right, to translate that into money, right? It's like, what has changed your life that much, right? Like, if you look at like, close your eyes, visualize your car, your house, your job, your 401k, like your bank account, like all this stuff, like all these things with like money tied, like a money value tied to them, right? And then where would you place losing 100 pounds? Like in terms of like relatively, right? And the obvious answer was like, it's priceless. Like it's literally changed her life more than owning a house. It's changed her life more than owning a car, going to college, like all the stuff that we assign dollar amount values to, and we take out loans and we do all this stuff. And it's like, wow, okay, so losing 100 pounds, like it's, yes, it's hard to put a dollar amount on that, but so I basically was like, okay, so you're telling me that losing 100 pounds in money, like in a dollar amount, would be worth more money to you than college, your car, your house, right? Like all of these things, like in terms of the impact that it's had on your life. And she was like, yeah. So I was like, okay, so with that being said, we're trying to sell your monthly coaching package at like 250 bucks. It's like you're literally changing people's lives more than their house, more than their car, more than like there are very few things that you can put above your health in this life, guys. Like literally in my mind the only thing that like if I had to choose, the only thing that would come above my health is like the health of my wife, like the health of my family members, maybe. Like I would sacrifice myself if it came down to it and we could only choose one, right? That's the only thing. Like there's not a dollar amount, there's not a house, there's not a car, there's not like nothing is worth as much as your health. So I don't know. I think that in my mind was just like, wow. Like I don't even know where that came from, but it was just like you have to recognize your value, guys, right? And most people what they do is they don't ever think these things through, right? Most people have never believed in themselves, and most people never take the time to actually believe, like actually like assign a dollar amount value to their life, right? Because the reality is like your life is worth so much more than like anything, right? So with that being said, like so many people just sell out their dreams. They give up hope on themselves and then they end up just clinging to things. And it's that's a tough life, guys. Like when you value money over your own life, like that is a very tough thing. But um and going back to I read this book a while ago. It's called the oh man, it was like 2 years ago now. Um, it's called Essentialism, the subtle or the disciplined pursuit of less. Essentialism, the disciplined pursuit of less. And there's one chapter in it that completely just changed the way that I look at everything. But he talks about assets, right? Like this guy was like big into finance, big like, anyways. So he talks about protecting your assets, right? Um, and when we talk about assets, a lot of the time we think of things like the car, the house, the job, etc. And he was like, but the way that we think about it is like a lot of the time we sacrifice our own mental health and we sacrifice one, our own mental health, but our own physical health for our job because we see the job as the asset. We see the job as the thing producing the result, right? But the reality is that's not it, right? Like somebody who truly like where the value truly lies and what is producing the money is you. It's your mentality, it's your brain, it's your energy. And you can turn any job into money if you just like value who you are, right? So you are creating the value. Like you are your own biggest asset, right? Even though like I said, we tend to think of the cars and the houses and, 401ks and all this stuff, right? Because that feels stable to us. But the reality is like all of that stuff is destined to change at some point. Like you can't just go through your whole life holding on to the car and holding on to the house and like those things are all a product of you. They're a product of your mind, your mentality, like your energy, all of those things. So, um, with that being said, like the whole point of that chapter in the book is like you have to protect your assets, right? And your asset being your mind, your mindset, your energy. Um, and I think that's one thing that so many people just like miss. Like we sacrifice our own mental health to go chase something that is like deemed to be valuable, right? Whether that be the career, the car, the job, whatever. We, like, a lot of the time we compromise ourselves in order to go chase these things. But the reality is, like, the more compromised you are, the less value you are worth, right? Like, and this is one of the things that was like a huge epiphany to me when I was in college, because I was in a extracurricular club called the Rural Health Scholars Club. And the entire point of that club was to help pre-med students be placed into med school. And so what we did is we did all of the extra stuff, right? So like writing a personal statement and like all the community service and like all of that stuff, so that, and like mock interviews, right? Like that type of stuff, so that when the time came that we were interviewing for med school, we looked really good on paper so that we were able to get in. And then, yeah. Um, so what we did was, like, at the end of year one, which I think this was my junior year of college, but at the end of year one, we wrote an essay on why we wanted to go to med school, like the impact that we wanted to leave on the world. And the craziest thing, like the craziest thing happened, because I sat down and I was like, man, like, do I just fake this? Or like, am I real? Like, do I be me? And because there's like the fake answer that's like, yeah, well, I want to help everybody and da 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 da, right? And like, yes, there is some nobility there, but um, my point being that, like, I started looking at it and I was like, well, there's not really a reason why I would want to be a dentist. Like, in my mind, it makes zero sense to drill people's teeth all day. I don't want to be in people's mouths. I don't want to do surgery. Like, that just sounds weird to me. Like, it's never appealed to me. It's not who Dylan Lowe is. And literally the only reason I would have done that is to make money. And the crazy part about that is, like, the entire vetting process of medical schools is to try and weed those people out. You know what I mean? Like, yes, they do need people to come in and like pay their tuition and stuff so that they can thrive. And you have a lot of people who make it through med school just for the money. It is a great career and stuff. But for me, it was just like, they're like, literally the only reason was for money. Like, I didn't care about people's teeth. And like, I don't feel like that's made, I don't know. I like having good teeth, but I just feel like that hasn't been like a life changing thing for me. For me, it's more of like the mental aspect, right? Like, I love um, psychology, therapy, like all of that type of stuff. Just because it's like, so, like, you're literally giving yourself the mental tools in order to overcome anything and become more resilient in your life. So for me, it was interesting because I had been studying the anatomy, physiology, and all that stuff, and getting into bodybuilding. So, anyways, um, so I had kind of developed this like thing with connecting with my body and like using that to overcome any like mental illness, stress, anxiety, like all that type of stuff. And ultimately, that's kind of what led me down the bodybuilding path. Was like it for me, it was something that had made such a huge impact on my, one, physical health, but two, my mental health. Like, it helped boost my confidence in the times when things were hard, and I could literally just, like, whenever things were hard or it got to be too much, I could literally just go to the gym, and it was like an outlet for me, and it was also very positive. So anyways, back to the point, which I don't even know what's the point what's the point now. um, but yeah, there's so many people who live their entire lives compromised. Guys, there are so many people who live their entire lives compromised. And that's where we have those people. When you see the people drinking, when you see people using prescription drugs consistently, or whatever the thing is, like, if you see people trying to escape from life in whatever aspect that is, a lot of the time it's because they're compromised, guys. And you can't live a life where you're compromised, because think about the long-term effects of that, right? Like, I can't imagine getting to my deathbed and looking back and being like, man, like, why did I do what I did in my life, right? And you look back and you're like, well, I don't know, dad told me it was a good thing to do. Mom told me it was a good thing to do. Um, whatever, right? I want to look back and I want to be like, hey, I had this problem, right? Like I struggled with whatever the thing was, and I figured out a way to overcome that, and then I shared that with the world, right? And in my mind, leaving a meaningful impact like that in the world and being able to die knowing that you left that type of legacy and you impacted people's lives in that way, then that sounds better than making a whole bunch of money doing like in a compromised position in your entire life. So, um, anyways, guys, this kind of came full circle, but the reality, guys, is that you have to understand your value, right? Wherever, like, whatever the situation is, um, you have to take a step back and you have to look at like, okay, am I compromised? Is this in line with what I want to do in my life? Is this in line with my morals and ethics and who I am? And then at that point, it's like you have to sit back and just be like, okay, well, look at the impact that this particular thing has had on my life. And then I want to share that with others. And when you're able to do that, then your value is like exponential because you truly believe it. Like you are selling passion at that point. And that in itself, like if you are able to consistently show up with passion, purpose, and like and guide people, you will never struggle to have an impact in this world. It may take time, but you will never really struggle to have an impact because you are leading with passion, right? And the energy behind that is just next level. Like people will understand. So, anyways, guys, yeah, that's the podcast for today. Make sure to like, subscribe, all the stuff. If you like these podcasts, like be sure to let me know. I don't know. I'm just gonna keep doing them. I don't really care if people watch. This is more for me than anything. The biggest part is like over the last few years, I've identified where I want to go and what I want to do with my life. And I think ultimately speaking in front of people and speaking on stage is going to be a very, very prevalent part of what I want to do, and the impact that I want to make. So, with that being said, the biggest thing is just developing my voice and getting comfortable talking on camera in front of people, like all the stuff. So, doing this twice a week for me has been like incredibly therapeutic, believing that I can like just get out of my head, get into my body and just flow and like be able to articulate things in a way that hopefully resonates with people. um so yeah, like this has been a really really big thing for me, and I really do hope that I'm like helping people, and like hopefully this resonates. Like hopefully this is like that thing that you needed in order to believe in yourself, understand your value, take your life to the next level, whatever that looks like, guys. But um yeah, guys, thank you so much if you've made it this far. um like, comment, all the stuff, follow me on Instagram, engage with my stuff. Trust me, trust me, trust me, it means the world to me. So thank you guys for listening, and I will catch you next week.